Hello and welcome back to another session of ATC 2020, the Asynchronous Technology Conference. I'm Andreas Johansson, Director of Operations at Streetsboro. With me today, I have Molly Cloder, who's going to take it away with Google Classroom. We also see Dan Stitzel on here, who's going to be a co-moderator or moderator for the session. So send all your questions, comments, wishes, and dreams to the chat space. We will send you the link to the certificate of attendance. We will send you the link to where everything is hosted, and you'll be able to go back and watch Molly over and over and over again for those classroom nuggets. I think that's all we have. Molly, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Take it away. Share your screen.
Okay. Are we set? Can everyone see my screen now? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so today we're gonna talk a little bit about Google Classroom. Thanks to Andreas for doing that introduction. And if you didn't already get the slides in the chat, you can get them through this link here. It is bit.ly/async, ASYNCH20. So if you need those slides, you can head over to that URL to grab them. Today we're going to talk about Google Classroom basics. So if you just want a quick refresh on how to access the things that you need to access on Google Classroom, that's what we're sort of going to go over today. If there are spots where you want to sort of go to the next level, you can send me an email and I can give you any instructions or directions on maybe amping up your Google Classroom. But for right now, I wanted to review or revisit a lot of those basics, especially for those of you who maybe just started using Google Classroom last spring. So my name is Molly Cloder. I am an English teacher here at Streetsboro City Schools. I've been teaching here for 8 years. And I'm an instructional technology aide here for the building. I'm a Google certified teacher and trainer, and you can get a hold of me at Mrs. Cloder on Twitter and Instagram, which I know a lot of people use. So if you're in the district, you know my email is mcloder@scsrockets.org. Oops. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna go over, this is sort of my table of contents for today. I really don't think that in an hour we'll be able to cover all of this material, but I have all of this hyperlinked. So when you come back to these slides at a later date, you can just sort of figure out what you want, and they are all hyperlinked to the appropriate slide. So if you just want to refresh on what Student View is or does, later on, you can just hop over there with these slides. So save them, star them, whatever you need to do to add them so that you can revisit them when you need to. So our agenda today is we're going to go over how to create a class, how to add the students to that class, how to add parents and guardians to the class in a guardian summary capacity. We'll talk about organizing your Google Classroom using topics, and we'll talk about how to create an assignment or a quiz or a material. And then we'll touch on grading in the classroom. Obviously, these are sort of a hope and wish, dream, and list for what we can get covered today, but we'll do our best. Just to sort of do a quick little shameless plug for Google Classroom, I wanted to just remind people that Google Classroom is here to sort of improve you as a teacher, your workflow. So your day-to-day life will be made easier with Google Classroom because it automatically creates folders in your Google Drive. Google Classroom makes the collecting and creating of paperless documents so much easier. It allows you to assign documents to students on an individual basis, or you can assign documents to an entire class of students. It allows you to give quick feedback without having to wait until you next see the student. That's particularly valuable if you might be starting in a hybrid model. It gives a good and secure space for your classroom discussions, so you don't have to worry about having outsiders on your class discussion space. And it creates a one-stop shop for you as a teacher for creating, reviewing, and grading your assignments. So everything can really be done through the Google Classroom platform. Likewise, it's going to make your students' workflow better. It's going to keep them organized with those Drive folders. It's going to file assignments for them into those folders so they always know where they are. Again, it's a secure space so the students can say what they need to say without fear of other people outside the school or even maybe potentially other classmates knowing what they've said. And it allows those students one place. So no more do you have to worry about the students clicking on 14 different things to be able to get and turn in their assignment. or rather complete and turn in their assignment. Now they can do pretty much everything they need to right through Google Classroom. So we're going to start today right away by going in and opening or creating your first Google Classroom. So there are several ways to get to Google Classroom. The first way is to go through the waffle or the apps launcher, the 3 or 9 dot grid in the upper right hand corner of your Google Chrome browser. And you can click on that and you'll find Google Classroom. Or you can go to classroom.google.com. There are several other ways of going about finding Google Classroom, so if you prefer a different way, that's the one. And just one quick point to note is that if you're using this apps launcher, you can rearrange the apps in your apps launcher by just clicking it and dragging it wherever you want it to go. So if you don't like the organization of the waffle or the apps launcher, just click and hold the icon and you can move it wherever, however you'd like to. So I've already made a Google Classroom before, so I'm going back and showing you what it'll look like if you've never really done it. So if you don't see the screen, it's because you've made or joined a Google Classroom before. So you'll see a little box that says, this is Google Classroom, what Google account do you want to sign in with? You'll select that sign in, whichever account you'd like to sign in with, and you'll select continue. And then you'll choose, I'm a student or a teacher. Now, one thing to note is that if perhaps at some point in time you've accidentally selected that you're a student and now you want on that account and now you want to be switched to a teacher, you need to reach out to your admin for whoever manages your Google accounts, and they can do that switch for you. Unfortunately, you can't change your own role. That's unfortunate for you in this current situation, but is good for the students, obviously, because they can't just become a teacher out of the blue. They have to have their account set up that way. And now we're through sort of the startup pieces. So you're going to go in Google Classroom and you're going to find this little sort of plus sign in the upper right hand corner. You'll select that and you'll choose Create Class. And you'll see you're required to have a class name. I'm going to start by doing test. You can rename a class. So if something happens and you need to rename it later on, you're always able to do that. One thing that I do encourage you to do is that if your student is taking, let's say, 2 English classes, to make sure you specify which English class that student is taking. Try to be as clear as you can in the class name to make it easier for your students to be able to figure out which class that they should be joining. You can add, those are optional, the section, the subject, and the room number. So that might be helpful, but not required. And once you've got all the information in there that you'd like, you choose Create. When you click Create, what is happening is 3 things. So first, you're making a Google Classroom. Second, that Google Classroom is also making a Google Calendar. And that Google Classroom, third, is also making a Google folder in your Google Drive. So it sometimes takes a little bit of time because it's making those 3 things. So it's making your Google Classroom, but Google Classroom also has its own dedicated Google Calendar, and that class will also have its own dedicated Google Drive folder. So once you're here, you have you're going to be dropped onto your stream. You'll see along the top there are 4 tabs: Stream, Classwork, People, and Grades. And we're going to sort of walk through each of those 4 tabs and everything that you can do on them. In the slides, you'll notice that I have linked, labeled, and marked all of the pieces. So if you don't know what things are after this and you don't want to go back and rewatch this whole video, you can use the slides to figure out what things do. But we're going to be mostly working in this Google Classroom. So in this test Google Classroom on your stream, you'll see that first up the upper left, you'll see this class code. The class code is how students can join your Google Classroom. If you select the square kind of next to the class code, it makes it big. And then you'll have another square where you can make it even bigger. Here you can copy this invite link. So you can copy this and paste it in an email or something, and then the students can join that. The class code is how I have my students join my class. So personally, I have high school students, I would encourage my own high school students on the first or second day of school, I would say, all right, kids, everybody's logging into Google Classroom and type in this code, SUKCGYS. I would encourage them to do that because I have a lot of students. And so for me, adding in each kid manually through the People tab, which we'll talk about later, is cumbersome. And frankly, I think the students can do it. They don't need me to make them in the class. They can do it themselves. So the class code is located up first. Then here you'll see Meet link. So I know many of us have been learning a lot about Google Meet lately. And through Google Classroom, there can be a permanent Google Meet link. And that can always live there so long as you click Generate Meet Link. So when you click Generate Meet Link, you just have to enable it by clicking Generate Meet Link. And now that link is the same for that class for the entire school year. So if you have office hours or a class that you're supposed to be teaching synchronously or asynchronously, and a student is supposed to be logging in at a particular time to meet with you or talk with you, or maybe a student has reached out to you and asked if they can meet with you one-on-one, you can generate the meet link and make sure it's visible to the students, which is what you'll see down here. And the kids will see this meet link and they'll be able to join your Google Meet without having to create a new Meet and email it out to those kids. What I would think I will do is I will generate the Meet link and leave it visible to students all the time. If that becomes a problem and I hear of students joining a Meet or trying to sit on a Meet when I'm not there, I'll hide it. And when I need that class to meet, I'll turn it back on. I'll make it visible again. And then you'll just click Save. And now you'll see there's the Meet link. And to join the Google Meet, you'll just select the link and it'll open up in Google Meet. So you've got your class code, you have your Meet link. Over here on the bottom right of this image, you'll see that there's an ability to select a theme. You are defaulted into selecting a theme, but there are a bunch of themes that you can choose from. So you can go in and design your classroom to look the way you want it to look. So you pick a different one, choose select class theme, and it changes sort of the color scheme and all of that. You also can upload a photo. So if you want a custom class theme, you can upload a photo. I know a lot of teachers this year have been using the Bitmoji Classroom and things like that. And the way they got that in their Google Classroom is by making it and then uploading a photo. So in your stream, you'll see your class code, you'll see your Meet link, you'll see the ability to select a theme or upload a photo to the theme. Then you'll see down here, it says share something with your class. This is where you'll do an announcement. So if you have something that you want to tell the kids, remind the students, something like, remember to bring headphones tomorrow. The students, you will post it as an announcement and it just shows up like to them on the stream. Quickly, just remember to do something. I equate the the stream to be much like how I would call Facebook or Twitter. It appears in reverse chronological order. The most recent thing will be up at the top and the oldest thing will be at the bottom. And it functions just like quick announcements. You'll see under the For icon, you get a drop down. If you have more than one class, you could post it to all of your classes or just a couple or just the one. So if I wanted to remind my classes, all of them, to bring their headphones tomorrow, I would choose my English 9s and my test account. If I choose more than one class, then I can't choose my individual students. But let's say I'm just posting it to this test class. I can make this announcement just to the students who are in my class. Now, obviously, I don't have anyone in my class. If I did, I would see their names listed underneath here, and I would be able to just select those individuals who I wanted to post it to. This is really nice if, let's say, I want to send a reminder just to 2 or 3 kids. Don't forget you have a presentation tomorrow. Maybe those 2 need to catch up their presentation, or maybe just those 2 were absent. I can make a post or an announcement just to them, eliminating me having to post or send a message to all of my classes. Additionally, I can add materials to an announcement. So I can post something from my Google Drive. So I could add an assignment sheet. I could add a link somewhere to something. So I just go in and paste the link and it's added down below. I can also attach a file. So I could pull something in from my computer or again from my Google Drive. And lastly, I could add a YouTube video. So I could click here, a little YouTube panel pops up, and I could type in whatever I wanted to type in. And now I can just pull koala videos. Likewise, I could just paste the URL from YouTube if I already have that. And those would all appear down here just like that. So in your stream, you'll see a box here where you will click and you'll type whatever announcement you'd like to share with your class. You can choose which classes you'd like to share it with. And if you choose just one class, you can select which students you'd like to share it with. You can add any additional materials that you'd like. And then you can either post now by choosing post, or in the drop down, I can schedule it to go out at a later time. I can also save it as a draft. So if I'm not ready to push send, but I want it to go out later, but I don't want to delete it, I can just save it as a draft and it'll show up as saved announcements just like the schedule did. Also on your stream, you'll see this upcoming button. Upcoming will tell the students what class they have coming due soon, and teachers. So what work they have due soon. The upcoming box is really handy, especially as we're coming into this time where students might be working independently more and not checking in with their teacher, getting to see what all homework they have to do. The upcoming box is going to be really valuable. I'm also going to point out a to-do list a little bit later on, and that'll be helpful as well. So I'm going to pause right here. Andreas or Dan, whoever's the moderating, do we have any questions in the chat that we need to address before we pop over to classwork?
Nope, we just a question about sort of sharing the slides, and we're sharing the slides at the dedicated website. We'll send out the link here shortly.
Okay, great.
Halfway through, and no questions, just keep going. It's
okay.
Fascinating. Dan?
Thanks.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Molly.
Okay. So now we've talked about the stream. That's pretty much everything that you need in the stream. So we're going to pop over to classwork now. So again, there are 4 tabs across the top: stream, classwork, people, and grades. So now here we are over in classwork. So I mentioned at the beginning when you were creating the Google Classroom that it was generating a Google Calendar and a Google Drive class folder. So in your classwork, you'll see a link to the Google Calendar. If you select that, it will open up your Google Calendar and you'll see all the classes that you're in. So I'm going to go over to April because, so you'll see like a lot of these are all the assignments that my kids had. None of them are perfect because the class has changed, but you'll see it creates it in Google Classroom, or sorry, Google Calendar. This is really helpful for the students, again, who might need to do a better job of organizing their work. Another nice thing about the Google Calendar is that a Google Calendar for the class is shareable to the public. So you could share your Google Calendar with the community, with your parents or the guardians of those students that you have in the class, so that they can also see when things are due. The class drive folder is exactly that. It makes a Google folder for your Google Classroom. Now, I don't have any material posted in here, but I'm gonna pop over to Classroom to show you another class and their folder. So I'll hop over to my AP English Lit from a few years ago. You can see these are the assignments that I've posted. And if I chose inside this assignment, you'll see here are all of their essays. This makes it, or their work that they turned in. This makes it much easier sometimes for grading. I don't use the class folder for grading all the time, but often I find going into the folder makes grading some assignments a little bit easier. And then just as there was before, now there on the stream, there is a Meet link here as well. And I don't want to open it because it might cause some feedback. So I would just click that and it would take the kids right to Google Meet. So now we're going to talk about what you mostly do in classwork, and that is create classwork. So you're going to see this big sort of oblong create button. So you'll select that and you'll see you have 5 options plus topic. So we're going to talk about topic first. So we're creating or adding a topic is basically like a way to organize your work. I organize my work by the units that we cover. So if I'm covering a unit on persuasion, I would make a persuasion topic. Now you can add all of your topics ahead of time, or you can add your topics as you go. So you don't necessarily need to add all your topics right away, but you could. So under create, I already talked about topic, and topic is a nice way, like I said, just to organize. Now I'm going to talk about assignment. So we're going to choose assignment first. When you click create an assignment, it pops up this panel. This panel will look the same all the time. On everything, you'll always see a panel that looks like this. So you always have to have a title. So again, I'm going to title it test. And now you can have instructions. So I can write out step by step what I want the students to do, and they would show up here. I like the instructions because especially if a student is absent or wasn't maybe paying close attention, they can check those instructions before they come and talk to me. Just as I could in the announcements, I can add material. So I can add something from Google Drive. I can add a link to a website. I can add a file from my computer. I can add a YouTube video. I can add as many things as I want to. So if I wanted to add a Google document, I'm going to click Google Drive and I'm going to go and find a Google document. So I'm going to choose something that I can edit. Click, sorry. There it goes. So I selected it and now I can click insert and it shows up there. I could also go in and add a YouTube video. I'm just going to stick with the koalas. And then they'll just keep tiling down here. Now, because this is a Google file, a doc, a slide, a sheet, a drawing, whatever, you'll see now that I have this over here that says students can view file with a drop down. If I select students can view file, that would be like showing a kid something, but they can't edit it. The next option is students can edit file. If I select this option, then if I share it out, once I post it, once I click assign, all of the students in the class will all be working on this one file. Dan taught me a lot about how he used to do this with his PowerPoints or his Google Slides for vocabulary. He would make a vocabulary slide and he would set of slides and he would send out those slides to the students so that they could all edit the file, but he would put a name or assign a slide number to each student. So that way the students were really only editing their slide. So if I said, hey Joe, you need to only be working on slide 6, then the students would be working just on slide 6, but they would have a study guide for the whole class at the end. So that's why students can edit file is a good option for some situations. You just sort of have to play it out based on what's right for you and your class and your assignment. So students can view files, just look at this. Students can edit file says, hey, the whole class can edit this. And then make a copy for each student is the equivalent of me handing you a piece of paper and now this is the paper that you're working on, just you. So when you click make a copy for each student, it makes a copy, it adds their student name to their document, and then the students can turn it back in and it would just be them editing or working on that document. So we talked about titling and adding instructions. We talked about adding material to your assignment post. And we talked about the different settings if you're working on with a Google tool. You also can create something. So if, let's say, you wanted to give an assignment, but you hadn't made it yet, under create, you could choose docs and it would make a new Google Doc for you that now you can go in and do any editing or typing into. So that's what the create tool does. On the right-hand side, you have, just like you did for announcements, which classes do you want to post it to? And do you want it to be all students or just a few? Because this is an assignment, you can give it a point value or you can make it ungraded. So if I want to change the point value, I would just highlight it and choose 20 points, click enter, and now it's a 20-point assignment. I can change the due date. So when it's due, I just choose where it says no due date and pick the correct due date. And I can also give it a time. So if this is something that you want students to do in class and they shouldn't be allowed to do it outside of class, I can choose the due date and I can choose the time. Now, that's not going to stop it, right? The students could still potentially complete the assignment, But you as the teacher will get a sort of flag next to their assignment that says late, telling you that they didn't complete it during the time you allotted for them to complete it. Now, just as I showed you how to add a topic before, you can add this assignment to that topic if you want to, or I can create the topic right from here. So I can change I can make a new topic by just, clicking under topic and create new topic. You can add a rubric to your Google Classroom work. Now, I'm an English teacher and I grade a lot through rubrics. So if I click rubric, I can either create a rubric. So if I choose create a rubric, I'll get this sort of panel and I'll just go through what it tells me to do. I'm gonna discard. I could also reuse a rubric. So if I used a rubric in one class, I could reuse it into this class. Or I could have made a rubric in Google Sheets and I can just bring it in from Google Sheets. I already have a rubric made and it's in this class. And no, it's not. Okay, well, I have a rubric made. It's in Google Sheets, so I'll pull it in from Sheets. Sorry, it's taking a while. So we grade our writing with a particular program called RACE. I clicked import from Sheets, and now I see it here. It says that I'm not scoring right now because our first essays where I'm not grading with a point value, but I could turn on use scoring and now I can I can say, this is out of 5 points and so on. Setting up a rubric is a bit cumbersome at first, but once you have a rubric made, it's very easy to use. And I'll show you when you're grading a student's work, you'll see the rubric on the right-hand side of the panel. You'll just click their score and it adds in really nicely and it totals it for you, which is handy. And then we have originality reports, or now it's called check plagiarism. Not everybody has this and you only get so many per year. I think it's 3 per year. So I only use the plagiarism checker when I really need it. It's handy when I'm working on things where students might have been just copying and pasting from the internet. I pull that over. I use the check plagiarism button then. So that's that option. Only use it when you need to. Like I said, only 3 assignments per class, so I'm not going to use it for this. And then once you've completed this, you can choose to assign it right now, or just like you did with an announcement, I can schedule for when I want it to go out. So I could schedule to post it tomorrow morning before class, or I could just save it and come back to it later, which is what I'm going to do now. Now you'll see under the top, it created a topic, and now it's grayed out because I haven't pushed go yet. So that's creating an assignment. Creating a quiz assignment is very similar, except now what it does is it automatically adds in a blank quiz. And it gives me the option for locked mode. So I'm going to use this blank quiz. So imagine there are a bunch of questions in there. If I wanted to use a quiz I had already created, I'll show you that too. If I wanted to use a quiz I'd already created, exit out of this one, and then I'd go into add and select Google Drive. And then I would choose a form that's already been made from the drop down. So I'm still gonna stick with this blank quiz. Locked mode, if I turn on locked mode, that means that the students, once they start the quiz, can only go on this document. The locked mode only works if it's a district, if they're logged in with your Google account to take this, the locked mode only works if they're logged in with their school Google account. So it's not great. It's not the perfect lockdown browser that you may be looking for, like the end of course exam has, but it's doable. It's nice. It's not the worst. So locked mode turns it on. They can't go to any other tabs or anything like that. Grade importing is nice if you want to pull in the grades from their Google form into the gradebook in Google Classroom, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I leave that on. If you want to turn that off, you can. And then just like you normally would, just like you normally would, you can change the point value, you can add a due date, you can put it in a topic, you can give it a rubric if necessary, you can share it with specific kids or multiple classes, you can assign it now, save it for later, or schedule when you want it to go out. I'm gonna exit out of that. You'll notice that this, I didn't put it in a topic when I made it. So it's not in a topic. If I wanted to put it in a topic, I could go into the 3 dot here, the snowman, and click edit, or I could just click and hold it and I can drag it where it belongs. Likewise, I can reorganize these topics if I want to by just clicking and dragging. So we created an assignment and a quiz assignment. They're very much the same. Now I'm going to talk to you about creating a question. Creating a question is like creating something to help students with a discussion post or just a quick check-in with a kid. I use questions a lot for entrance and exit tickets. So I'm going to type in a question. How are you? I could also add in extra instructions. And I can choose either a short answer response that I want the students to give or a multiple choice response. And you just go in and type in the options. Additionally, I can add material or information. So if I were doing an entrance ticket from checking to see what they understood from yesterday's work, I could add the slides from yesterday and say, you know, what is the most popular color in America? I don't know. And maybe that was what we had covered yesterday in class. I could put the slides in as well. So if they don't know the answer, they could go back in and look at the slides to answer. I could also do a video. So I could link a YouTube video and say, watch this video and then answer this question. So I could add in material, which is handy. I could also create material if I haven't already made it. And just like before, I can give it a point value, select which students I want it to go to, give it a due date, assign it in a topic. And then with the multiple choice option, you'll see students can see class summary. That would be like if they completed a poll and the students would be able to see, oh, 4 out of 6 kids in my class think it's this answer. You can turn that on or off. If you're choosing for short answer, you have the option for students to be able to reply back and forth to each other, and students can edit their answer. I usually don't let students edit their answer, not because I want them to change their answer, but because I want to know what they thought first. I usually use this is a formative assessment, not really a summative assessment. So I usually turn this off, but that's personal based on what you're doing and what kind of class you have. And then I usually leave this on. Students can reply to each other. So a question like this, how are you? It's a private question. I wouldn't have this on. But a question that's maybe a discussion post, so, you know, analyze this character and this concept and this story, maybe I might include a requirement for the students to respond to so many of their classmates to mimic kind of a discussion board post like they would have in college. And just like I can with their assignments, I can ask it right now, or I can schedule to go out tomorrow or later, or I can save the draft and come back to it, which is what I'm going to do. And then the last thing that you'll see, well, the next last thing you'll see is material. So let's say I'm going to start a unit and I want to give my students just the notes, but there's no work to go along with that notes. I just want them to have the notes. I can just add it as material. You're not doing anything with this. You're not working on it or doing anything here. You're just, this is a material that you might want to have. I add that as material. When I'm working with poems in my class, I pass out the poem as a material because they're writing about the poem is a different assignment, but I just want them to have a copy of the poem. If I am giving them an essay, I give them the rubric ahead of time as material so that they can just keep referring to it whenever they need to. And just like before, you can add from anywhere. You can create right from here if you didn't already make it. You can select which class and which students you want to send it to, and you can put it in a topic. And you can post it now, schedule it for later, or save it. Oops, I should have not done that. I'm going to click material and post it now. So now you'll see here in the stream, if it's sort of not shaded, it's bold or it got a color. But if it's gray, it's not posted. And you can see that material has this little bookmark. Assignments are a clipboard with lines, and a question is a question mark. The last thing that you might need to use is the reuse post. I love reuse post. Let's say I posted something in one class and I want it to be now in this class. Maybe it was from last year and I want to reapply it to this year. I just click reuse post, then I select the class that I want to come from, And now I can choose the piece, click reuse. And now I get this whole panel, everything I just said in the original post, all the material that was there, I can just reuse it. So I really like the reuse post tool. I use that a ton. I highly recommend that you consider the reuse post. Some teachers I know like to have a master Google Classroom, and they just, all they do is reuse posts. They pulling from that master Google Classroom. So we're here kind of at a natural pause from the classwork tab. And so I'm just checking in to see if there are any questions that we want to answer before we move on to the next two tabs.
We just got one. So we had two questions, one about reusing a classroom from last year. I think we figured that out. And then one literally just came through that said, how could we restore a classroom for the new academic year? So I assume one that's been archived.
Sure. So if you archived a class and you decide, oh no, I actually want to keep that back in, you would go to your dashboard again. And to get to your dashboard, you're going to click on the hamburger or the main menu, and you're going to click on classes. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm wrong. You're going to click on the hamburger, that's true. But then you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and you're going to find archived classes. And now you'll see all of the classes that you've archived. You'll have these little hash mark lines through it. And if you want to unarchive it, you just choose restore, and it comes right back. Now, if you had students in that class still, they'll still be in that. I don't always recommend that you unarchive a class, because if a new student logs into that, they're going to see a whole year's worth of work, and that could be overwhelming for a kid. It depends on your class and the people that you're working with. So for sure, you know, if that's right for you and your kid, your group, then you should go ahead and do that. I teach freshmen this year. That's not going to be right for them. I don't want to overwhelm them with that kind of material. So, but you can still reuse your posts from archived classes. So just because you archived it, if you just were like, oh, I really loved that lesson I did last year, you can reuse a post from an archived class with no trouble at all.
And so what Molly referred to as that master classroom is something that a lot of us started using before some of this additional advanced functionality came out in Google Classroom. So we would post something to sort of, you know, English Lit 1, and then we would also just post it to the sort of the master classroom to use and pick from later. So you could do that too. And then it all really depends. I think Joe had a good question about, you know, how to redo or kind of continue to use a classroom, and we took care of that in the chat, but it all depends on how you teach and what it looks like. So. Yeah.
And that's a really good point to remember. It's your classroom. So what works best for you and your students is the best choice. There's no like on high right answer, you know, like we're not going to be God shining down on you telling you how to organize your classes. It's completely has to be what's best for you as a teacher and an organizer, and for your students as workers inside that system. Great. Okay, so we talked about the stream and we talked about classwork. Now we're going to talk about the people tab. So because you are a teacher, you are automatically assigned as a teacher here. So you're going to choose, if you want to add a co-teacher, you're going to select a little person with a plus sign to invite them as a co-teacher. So I'm going to add Dan Stitzel as a co-teacher. So I type his name in and I'll click invite. Sorry, Dan. And he'll be here grayed out until he accepts the invitation, and then he'll be show up like this. You can have, as far as I would know, as many co-teachers as you want. So in some classes, I've had myself, an intervention specialist, and a tutor, in addition to my principal who wanted to be on my Google Classrooms, and maybe an EL teacher saved as teachers. Now, the bad news about having that is that those teachers might all get those notifications. They have to adjust their settings to adapt for that. But the good news for that is that then now that Dan has accepted, you see he turned to bold and in color. So now Dan and I can both grade student work and whatnot. You could certainly add a teacher as a student. So you could go in and add them as a student. But the downfall to adding them as a student means that they wouldn't be able to see other people's work, their other classmates, other students' work. So I like to encourage people to be added as teachers, So that's how you add teachers, and you want to delete them, you can. So you click on the little 3 dots, the snowman, you can email them directly from here. You can remove them, or if you're going to be moving out, you can select that they are the class owner. And I think the owner is the only people who can archive. I think that's the difference. I'm not certain, but I believe that to be true. Now, I already told you under the stream that I would just ask my students to join via the class code. But you may not choose to do that, it may not work for you. So under the people tab, if you click the little person next to students, you click the person with a plus sign, you can type in individual students' names. So I'm gonna say Andreas, and now Andreas is added as a student. Just this recently, now there is an invite link that's a direct invite to Google Classroom. So let's say you have a class website or a class newsletter that you're going to send out. You can click this little copy thing as an invite link, and then students can just paste that into their browser, and it will send them directly to the classroom and invite them to add that classroom. So that's new, like very new. So that's that button. Because I'm going to have students in person at the beginning, I'm still expecting them to be able to add themselves in with the class code. But if I had students virtually, I would probably go the invite link route. I would copy this link and I would email all the students through our gradebook program, where I can email them with a link and ask them to click on the link to join themselves. Oh, I'm going to add Andreas here. So sorry, Andreas, you're going to be a student today. So Andreas is a student in my class in a moment, and you'll see that he's invited. And again, when he accepts the invitation, he'll be bolded just like this. And just like that, just like with teachers, I can choose just that one individual and I can email them or remove them from the class. I can also add them as add a parent to the account. So I'm going to hop over to a class where I do have people in it. So I'm going to pop over here to our people tab. And you'll see that we have all of these students. We have 76 students. I can sort them. So I can change, right now it's alphabetical by last name. If I choose this, I can sort by their first name if I prefer. I can choose individuals and I can click under actions to email, remove, or mute. Mute is like, this one kid is just posting a lot and maybe needs to take a break. I can mute them and they would be just not be able to work they'd still be able to work in classroom. They wouldn't be able to comment and things like that for a little while. Same thing with this 3 dot here. Now I can email them. I also want to point out this invite guardians feature. So next to invite guardians, I'm going to go to somebody who I know won't be bothered. So I'm going to go to a teacher and I'm going to choose, or student, and I'm going to click invite guardians. And I can add in their email address, that person. So I'm going to add my email address. And now I am Ira Campbell's parent or guardian. And I choose invite. Now I'm attached to Ira Campbell as his guardian. I, in my personal email, will receive an email that asks what kind of summaries that I would like to have. I could have daily summaries or weekly summaries. And I would get in my email either daily or weekly, just a recap of what they have due, what has been posted this week, and whether or not the students have completed any work, turned in any work. It's just, parents don't get to see everything. They don't even get to really see their students' work. They just get a quick overview. It's a good sort of dining table conversation. Oh, I saw in our classroom summary today that you guys went over mythology. And they know that because I posted mythology notes today. Or, oh, I noticed that you didn't turn in your essay yet and it's due tomorrow. Do you need any more help with it? So that's sort of something that the guardian summaries can do. What's nice is once a guardian summary, once you add a parent's email or guardian's email to the guardian summary, it's with that email address for all of eternity. So if you're a first grade teacher, that's kind of hard for you because you have to add in, you have to type in or paste in all of those guardian emails. But by the time they get to me as a senior, most of those students already have emails associated with their parent emails or guardian emails associated with their accounts. So I don't need to keep going in and adding all of them. I just see which students don't have guardians assigned to their accounts and I add those emails. When you do it first, you'll get this pop-up that says add class to Guardian email summaries. And so I can choose just this class, or I can add all the classes. No thanks. And I'm going to remove myself as his guardian. But you'll notice, actually I should show you this. So you'll notice that if I choose this, now I can, in addition to emailing the students, I can additionally email the guardians. You can add as many, as far as I know, guardians as you need to. I've added up to 4. Oops. I gotta do that before I forget. So that's pretty much everything you can do in the People tab. If you are a person who uses the app, which I personally am, under the People tab, you also have the ability to do a student random generator, which is nice. So instead of like pulling their name out of a cup off of a pencil or whatever, popsicle stick, I can just use that app for that, and that'll be located under People. So again, we're done with the People tab, and I want to take a moment to see if there are any questions that I should answer.
I don't think so. I don't see any messages in chat about questions. We are about to wrap up just in a few minutes. So if you do have questions for Molly, throw them over our way and we'll make sure that she gets them.
So the last thing we're going to talk about really quickly is grades. I don't have any assignments, or sorry, I don't have any students, so I don't have any anything in the gradebook tab. Personally, I'm not a huge, I use the gradebook a fair amount, but I have to transfer them over personally to our grading book system. The grades are nice, but not perfect. So I wouldn't use the gradebook as your school grade book. But the grades feature is a good way for you to log what grade they got on that particular assignment so that the parents can see that as well. So I use the grades in addition to our hack accounts. So that's the grades feature. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the grades tab. It's not perfect, but it's there. You'll notice that in all the pages on the bottom left, you have this little question mark. Down here, you can check out what's new, so things update all the time. This is particularly helpful when you're coming back from the summer to review. You can request a feature, which is very handy. Google's been very responsive to changing or adding things, so you do that from here. Or you can report an issue, so if something goes wrong, you can report it. And then you have the Help Center for just tutorials, and then the Help Community to be able to ask other people. The last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is that you have now this panel at the top that's to do and to review in addition to calendar. This is going to be so handy for your students and for you. As a teacher, under to review, you'll see all of the things that students have turned in that you need to review. So I don't have anything because all of my classes are archived and nobody's in my new classes. The students will see under the to-do list everything that's been assigned to them that they need to work on, everything that's outstanding they haven't completed yet and that they need to be completing, and everything that's been completed, that's done. I really encourage you as a teacher to refer your students to the to-do list. And to get there, they can either click on this hamburger and they'll see to do down toward the down under what classes they're enrolled in, or they'll see it right on the classroom dashboard. That to-do list is right there. So I really want to encourage teachers to utilize this to-do and to review list. And I really want you to emphasize that to your students, that it exists and that they can use it to help them. There's a lot of extra little tweaks and things that you can work with in the settings. We don't have time to go over all of that, but if you click settings, you'll see there are lots of places that you can play, notifications you can turn on and off. So play around in there based on what works best for you and your classes. I'm gonna pop back over to my here's how to get a hold of me slide, which is the wrong direction. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can pop over to find me on Twitter or Instagram at Mrs. Cloder, or you can email me at mcloder@scesrockets.org if you need anything.
And we will have that on the website too, that you can check out over there in the chat box. Thanks, Molly. That was a lot of new features, and what I'm especially excited about it, that Google Classroom, when it came out, I had some sort of like beta access to it. It was just basically like, here's a stream that we're going to put some stuff in, and like, best of luck. And now they're really, like Molly said, they're really, really receptive to questions and saying like, hey, maybe this works better, this could work better. And that comes exactly from educators. So it's not really driven by sort of a team at Google. It was in the very beginning, and then they basically said like, we don't know what we're doing, so what are the features that people want? So I think it has grown into a product that's highly competitive today. The one downside, like Molly said, is that the grading system, the grades, like, we all have different student information system grading stuff. Some districts don't have anything, so for them it's okay, but we have a separate one altogether, and there's not just like a click and make it happen, but it does everything else for you. So what's not to love?
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out that I realized I forgot to point out is that you can reuse a whole class. So if there's a class that you had last year that you want to duplicate, just like you did before, if you're in the panel on your dashboard, you'll have the 3 dots where you see all the classes. You'll have 3 dots, and you'll see the ability to copy a class, and that just straight duplicates the class. So if you're in a situation where you wanted to just reuse something from last year, but move all the kids out of it, that copy class is a handy tool that
And that's an example of like that did not exist. Like,
right. Teacher said, hey, I want to be able to do this. And now
90% of the stuff today did not exist just 3-4 years ago. So it's amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks for spending the time with us. Thank you, Molly. Thanks, Dan, for helping out. Thanks to everyone that was here. You'll get the recording if you head over to that website over in the chat that we've continuously updated this morning, and we're sort of building it on the fly, because that's what we've done. So we built a companion ATC website that has Molly's slides on there, I think something else, and then I think we're going to put up all our contact information too. So if you want to email Molly, Dan, Missy, Lori, and Courtney later from this morning, you can do that. Our next session at 3 is on parent communication, and then we have another one at 4 on the Gmail basics. And some new stuff. So it'll be, basic, some labeling, things like that. Time for maybe some fake time, some beverage of choice, coffee, obviously, for more caffeine. And we'll see you in a bit.
Bye.
Thanks, Molly.
Yes, thank you.